I'm going to introduce you to somebody who is going to talk to us for a few minutes about something that he's just done that's radio related. So with that, I'd like Hal Kennedy N4GG to come on up and tell us a little bit about what he's been up to.
Thanks. Thanks, Mike. Stand between them, we'll have no feedback? Is that the deal? Okay, thank you. I just came out with a book, and I was talking to Wes the other night, and we got into the subject of what does it take to actually put a book out. And I spoke probably for 45 minutes, and I could see more and more questions coming up. And then I've had that conversation with a lot of other people too. I don't think people quite understand what it takes to actually publish a book. So I promised Wes I'd talk for 10 minutes about how to publish a book. I'm not sure I can do it in 10 minutes, but I'll go as fast as I can. This is the book, Ham Radio, Tips and Tales. You can get it on Amazon. If you go to Amazon, if you're Amazon Prime, you can push the button, you'll have it in 2 days. And this comes out of a system that authors call print on demand. There is no inventory for this book. And when you order one copy at Amazon, Amazon prints one copy, and it goes to your house. I have no inventory, Amazon has no inventory, nobody has any inventory. It's an interesting new model that's been around a couple of years, but in the old days, as an author, a small author, you typically ordered a bunch of books, like 100 or 1,000, and they showed up on your front door, and then you owned 1,000 of your own books. And maybe you could sell them, maybe you couldn't, maybe you could give them away, maybe you couldn't. Not bad for lighting your fireplace, if that's the last thing you could do with them. And that made it hard to be an author. It's a lot easier to be an author now. This was published by Amazon for me. And if you work through Amazon, the cost to take a manuscript through to a completed book is $0. They don't charge you a penny. Now, it cost me $250, and I'll tell you why, but it doesn't have to. And here's another book, by the way, that was done on Amazon, From A to 80 on the Water. This was done by K4JUG up in White County, another ham. And Francis did this book for an investment of $0 and 0 cents. You can go to Amazon and buy this book. If you're Amazon Prime, you get it 2 days free shipping. So, in a sense, you stand back and look at that and say, gee, this is going to be easy. I can do a book, right? No, maybe. I usually use nice view graphs and so forth, but I was told I should speak for 10 minutes, bring no view graphs. I was told last night, show up and talk for 10 minutes, so I have notes. I don't usually use notes. So here's the steps to go and get yourself a book published. Step 1, write the book, okay? That may seem kind of obvious. It's not. It may not be obvious. There are a lot of helpers out there. You can pay for people to proofread. You can pay for people to do artwork for your cover. You can pay for people to do editing. There's a lot of services you can buy. Nobody will look at your book if it's not finished. You can send a manuscript for a book like this. This is 36 chapters. I could have sent the manuscript, 35 chapters, to an editor and said, would you give me a price for editing my book? It's almost done, I got about 3 pages to write. And probably what I would get back is nothing. Or I get a 1-sentence email that says, not interested, send it to me when it's finished. Nobody will look at your book in any respect until it's finished, right down to the last word. The last word in this book has to be written before you can go anywhere else. So it may sound obvious, write the book first, but you got to write the book first, and then you go from there. The next thing you got to decide to do is figure out why you wrote it. There's a thing called vanity publishing. Most of us are very unhappy with that word because it would imply vanity or ego. And vanity publishing has nothing to do with that. I mean, some people are occasionally vain and just want to have a book with their name on it, but normally vanity publishing is the scenario where you pay somebody to print your book, and you are the publisher. And this is the scenario where you might wind up with 1,000 books on your front doorstep. You buy as many as you want. You sell them if you want. You give them away if you want. They're not listed anywhere for sale. They're not on Amazon. They're not any place. You just own however many books you bought. An example, there's a lot of good examples though about why you might want to do that. One example, say you're active in church and you want to put together a hymnal of your favorite tunes and put 50 copies at the back table of the church and have people help themselves, right? Well, that's vanity publishing. You pay for 50 copies and take the copies to church and hand them out. Another way is to support your business. This is a book, this is a great book. Wire book number 5, this was written by Press Jones. He's now Silent Key, but he owns, or did own, The Wireman in South Carolina. This is all about how to do wire antennas, and it really is a good book. But it's also a sales brochure for the products of the Wireman. So this book is typically given out for free. This is vanity publishing again. And if you look through it, trying to figure out who the publisher is, there's no publisher listed. Actually, he lists himself as the publisher. There's a printer someplace, but there's no publisher. He's the publisher. The bad news about this is, and I hate to bring this subject up, but I need to, if you get sued, if somebody is upset by your book for a variety of reasons, and you're the publisher, you are really on the hook. So if you put something in the book someone's not going to like, and one of the big traps is to take a piece of a photograph or artwork off the internet and stick it in your book. You know, I want a picture of a PL-259, I'm going to put it in my book, right? I just take it off the internet, and the next thing you know, you get a letter from somebody's lawyer that says, my copyrighted photograph of that PL-259 is in your book without my permission. Cease and desist. You owe me all your royalties, or whatever the lawyer letter says. So you have some insulation. I'm a little bit insulated from that because my publisher is Amazon. I'm doubly insulated because I did something else that I'll talk about in a moment, but you need to think, it's sad, but you need to think about the legal ramifications of what you're doing when you go out into the public domain like that. So there's public vanity publishing. There's also, all the way on the other side of this, is publishing to make a ton of money, right? You may not want to give hymnals out at the back of your church. You may want to make as much money as you possibly can. In that case, what you need to go for is the best art you can get for the front cover, the best material. You may start doing book signing tours. I mean, if I was pushing to make money, which I'm not, I would be sitting behind a desk here stacked with copies, and I'd be autographing the copies and trying to sell them as much as I can. You'll notice I didn't bring any copies, and I'm not doing that. I don't believe in, I'm not promoting this book. If you like it, buy it. If you hear somebody else likes it, buy it. Or borrow theirs, whatever. But that's the next step. Figure out why you did it. Did you do it to make money? Because that sends you one way. Did you do it as a freebie to give away to people? That sends you off in a different direction. And you got to, right after you write it, figure that out. So here's some of the nuts and bolts that have to happen before you get the book actually buyable. You need a cover. You know, you've written it, right? You feel like you're done. Everybody will tell you who's done this. When you're finished writing, you are half done. You have made it to the 50% point. If you got 2,000 hours of writing in, you got 2,000 hours of work ahead of you. And it's sad, but that is the way it works. So you need a cover. And you can do it yourself. If you're good at Photoshop, you can do it yourself. If you don't care, you can have a green cover with black letters on it that just says ham radio book and be finished. You can do that. You can spend a ton of time trying to get the cover exactly the way you want it. Or you can outsource it. There's a whole universe of freelance people who do all the kinds of work you need to get the book ready. And the best outsourcing that I ever bought, I paid somebody to do this cover for me. This cover cost me $40, 40. There's a gal named Angie, she's a freelancer, she does book covers. And there's a lot of work in here. Besides the photoshopping and all the rest, it has to be the exact right size so that the lettering on the spine comes out in the middle, that the margins are correct. It's in a format that Amazon will accept it, and they're very picky about format. Angie has done thousands of these. I've never done one. I don't want to learn all the rules on how to format a cover. I am not artistic. So I thought, for 40 bucks, I'll buy the cover. So I bought this cover, and it was the best 40 bucks ever spent. The next thing you got to worry about is layout and format. You get to pick what size book you want. So most of us pick 6 by 9. And I'll read you all the things you get to pick, but you get to pick that. But I have this manuscript, on Microsoft Word. One of the more important things, by the way, is how many pages is it. I have no idea how many pages it is at that point. I'm using a certain font, a certain size font, using 1.5 spaces between the lines. I'm not using page breaks. I don't know if it's 100 pages or 300 pages, but the rest of the world can't move forward till you get a page count. So, and Amazon, by the time they accept your manuscript, want it ready to print. The space in the middle here is called the gutter. The gutter has a different, that margin has a different space than the margin on the outside. The gutter on this page is on the left-hand side of the page. The gutter on this page is on the right-hand side of the page. And you start getting bogged down into all these details, and you start to find out that laying out the book is a real pain in the neck. Okay, I've never laid a book out before. You don't know how big the gutter's supposed to be. You don't know where the margin's supposed to go. You're not sure where the page breaks go. You don't have access to the best fonts. You're not sure what the spacing between the lines should be. And if you submit it to Amazon, guaranteed if you start off on your own, they will reject it. And they'll tell you why. Then you can redo it again, and they'll reject it again and again and again and again. The other thing you have to watch out for is what goes on what pages. For example, the first page that has all the copyright information and an ISBN number, which you need to identify the book, and copyright notations and everything, always goes on a left-hand side page. I never knew that. And the first page of every chapter is always on a right-hand side page. And on and on and on. There are a million rules about how it has to. This isn't sort of try and get it right and everything will be cool. It has to be right. It actually has to be exactly right. The copyright page has to be on the left-hand side. The first page of every chapter has to be on the right-hand side. And it goes on and on and on like that. I decided I didn't want to learn all that stuff and do all that stuff. So I also went to a freelancer to format the book and lay it out in Amazon format. That cost me $211. And the guy spent a ton of time working on this book. And we went back and forth many, many times. So I'm into the book for about 250 bucks. I spent 40 bucks on the cover and 211 bucks on formatting the inside. That was my entire investment. And I'm finished. You can spend as much as you want. I didn't hire a proofreader, but you can hire a proofreader. I didn't hire a copy editor. That's really a proofreader. I didn't hire an editor. An editor will go in and correct your syntax, correct your English, rewrite the book for you if you have to, if it has to be done. And there are a whole bunch of other services. There are marketing services. You can buy a marketing guy who will guarantee you that you will have exposure to so many hits on Facebook, so many hits on Twitter, so many hits on social media I don't know anything about, and on and on and on. You pay them for that. You can pay another guy who will get it placed at barnesandnoble.com, not on the bookshelf. You can pay a guy who will get it into like 15 websites, walmart.com, barnesandnoble.com, all these other places. That's where you can do, there are ways you can sort of learn to do this yourself, or you can pay somebody to do it for you. There's also something called turnkey. If you have a manuscript, rough one, and you say, I don't want to do anything that he just talked about. all of it sounds miserable, right? I mean, most of it's kind of miserable. I just want to write a check. Well, if you're willing to write a check for $3,000 or $4,000, you can take the manuscript and throw it under somebody's door and say, do a cover for me, format it for me, place it, advertise it for me, get it on Amazon for me. I don't even want to see it again. Here's my bank account, send the royalties to this bank account number. I don't want to see it again. Just do it. That's $4,000. So you can buy as much or as little as you want in terms of getting the book into finished form. But I will tell you, it takes as much time to do all that as it does to write it. If you go in, I'll just read you the list of what Amazon wants to know to publish a book. A lot of this is straightforward, and then some of it really stops you, it makes you think. Step one, you got to set up an account. You got to have an Amazon account, which for books is the same as your Amazon account. You have an ID and a password, you're all set. But the rest of it, you have to give it a place to send your royalty money. So you have to give them a routing number and a bank account number. It is advised, this gets so damn complicated, it's advised you set up a limited liability company to accept the royalties and then kick the royalties over to you as a secondary insulation between you and getting sued. I did not do that. I don't expect to get sued about anything that's in this book. If this thing starts making giant amounts of money, which it's not going to, I might set up an LLC. Yeah, but who would think as a beginning author, the first thing I got to do is set up a limited liability company? Well, they recommend you do that. At the moment you do this, you are a small businessman. At the end of the year, you will get a 1099 from Amazon. And you will declare on your income taxes the revenue you earned, even if it's $10 from selling a couple of copies. So now you need to keep track of your expenses. If you spent $40 on a cover, you can write that off against the income. But remember, you're going to get a 1099 at the end of the year, and you're going to be talking to your tax person about how do I account for this income I just didn't expect. It needs a copyright. When you write copyright on the first page, it is copyright. It is copywritten. But you can register the copyright for $125, and then it's really copywritten. And it's much harder for anybody to use part of your book if it's officially copywritten, but that's another $125 you can spend. It needs an ISBN number that goes in the back here. You can buy those for $25. Amazon will give you one for free. I'm kind of pushing Amazon because they make it so darn easy. Then as you go through Amazon, they want to know what size book you can pick. 6x9 is normal, but you can have almost any size book you want. They want to know color or black and white. They want to know if you want white paper or cream-colored paper. They give you two choices. They want to know what language the book is in. You can tell them English. They want to know the title of the book. They want to know the subtitle of the book. They want to know if it's a series. This might be the third edition of a series, or it could be the first. They want to know the edition number. The ARRL antenna book is, I think, in the 23rd edition. This is my first edition. These are easy to fill in, right? Contributors, if you're not the only writer, you may want to mention other writers. And then a key piece, the description. When you go to the web page to buy this book, you will see next to it on Amazon this, which is my description of my book. This is really critical. You got to spend a lot of time thinking about what you want to say, because you get about 2,000 words to convince people to buy the book. So you write a description of the book, and once it goes on sale, you can't change it. Most of this, once it goes on sale, you can't change it. So you need to really watch what you're doing. Then you get to supply Amazon keywords, and that helps people find your book. So, for example, the keywords for this book include ham radio, shortwave, radio operating, electronics. They allow you 12 keywords. If you put any of those words in, it will help bring you to this book. If you don't use the right keywords, you may never find the book. So you need to think about that. They ask you whether or not it's got adult content, yes or no. this book has no adult content, or maybe it's all adult content. I'm not sure. A 5-year-old would get much out of the book, but not that kind of adult content. What size, what color. And then you're kind of done. Then you get to pick a price. You set the price. You set the price. The interesting thing about it is they tell you what it costs to publish it. They tell you what it costs to ship it. And any price you put above that is a royalty. The royalty split with Amazon's about 50-50. So if it costs $8 to print and ship, and you sell the book for 10, there's $2 of profit. But Amazon takes one of those, so you wind up with $1 profit. You can have any price you want as long as it covers their cost. So if you price it really high, you'll make a big royalty, but you won't sell any. And if you sell it really cheap, you'll sell a lot, but you won't make any money. So what they advise you to do is look at all the competing books and see what they sell for, and try and pick a price more or less around the same price as all the other ham radio books, and then you're probably in good shape. So that's kind of the process. There are many, many publishing houses. Amazon is not the only one. It's the easiest, I think, and it's the one that's free. Almost all the other publishing houses will charge you for different pieces of this, including like if you want to, I might want to go ahead and change the title just before publication. Some of the publishers will want $25 to change the title before it's published. Amazon does not. So you have to look at these things, and it takes a lot of research to decide which publisher is for you, because they are all different and they serve different needs. If you're vanity publishing, it's probably not Amazon, it's somebody else. If you're doing it to make money, it's maybe Amazon, maybe somebody else. If you're doing a kid's book, I have a friend who did a kid's book. It's 10 pages. It's about 3 words per page. Seriously, see, Dick, run. Watch Jane pick up the pail. You know, that's that kind of book. And it's what's called full bleed, which means the printing and everything, it's all color, goes right to the edges. Okay? It costs, there's a gal I know in Vero Beach, it cost her $4,000 to publish the book. It's 10 pages. 10 pages, 30 words, something like that. But she paid somebody to do it all for her. She will never, ever make anything close to the money back. That is a losing proposition. You do some of these things just because you want to. I'll say two more things. First off, if you want to know all about it, watch the YouTubes. There's a whole bunch of really great YouTubes on how to do this. So there's a fellow named Dale Roberts, and he's got about 10 YouTubes, shows you exactly what to do. Follow Dale Roberts' advice, it's very good. And I'll leave you with a little anecdote from one of the YouTube videos, which you may discover, and that is how to write and publish a book in 10 minutes. And then he goes ahead and he does it, right on YouTube. And when you hear the title of the book, you'll understand how you do this. He goes into Kindle, and he says, I want white paper, I want it 6x9, it has no adult content, and he's answering all these questions. Title of the book. The title of the book is My Diary. Okay, the contents of the book, 100 blank pages. Okay. Hit the button, you just published the book in 10 minutes. Okay. And you laugh, but I started looking in the ham radio genre to see what else was out there. There's about 30 different logbooks you can pick from. Same thing. Somebody took 10 minutes, filled out all the questions, put the title on it, My Logbook, filled it with 100 blank pages, and hit the publish button. So if you want to publish a book tonight, that's everything. Writing it, publishing it, everything. End to end, floor to ceiling, wall to wall, all finished. If you want to be an author, publish a logbook. And now nobody's going to buy it probably, but you can hold it up. You can show your kids and say, Dad published a book. I got a book. I have a book for sale. I actually published my own book. So it can be anywhere from simple to incredibly difficult. Questions? Anybody? That was probably more than 10 minutes. Sorry.
Hal?
Chet? Yeah.
Is it on Kindle Unlimited?
That's a good question. It is not a Kindle book right now. Another little wrinkle in the world of, there's actually 3 kinds of books. There's e-books for Kindle, softcover, there's 4 kinds, hardcover and audiobooks.
Right.
And Amazon wants to know whether you want to do Kindle or softcover. That's all they do. And you can do either or both. If you do both, it's actually 2 different books, believe it or not. I would have to get another different cover and a whole other layout and a whole other formatting to redo the exact same book in Kindle, so I haven't done it. And again, for hard copy, and again, for an audiobook. Yeah, there it is. I had to write that, of course, to entice people to buy it. And I had to come up with all the keywords to drag you over here so you could get here, so you could read that, so you could buy it. And it takes a lot of thought to get the hooks put together. Chaz?
Steve, you go back 1 slide.
Backwards?
You only spent $241 real dollars. So you got Harrison Ford to then use your picture, his picture for nothing?
Well, that's my picture. It might have been taken a long time ago, but that is my picture. Another thing I didn't quite mention in enough detail, but it's important. All through this book, if you take a look at it, there are pictures and images and so forth, and a lot of stuff taken out of ARRL publications. In every case, you will see under there, taken from such and such, used with permission. And I have a stack of email this tall from every single place I took something. If you take it off the internet, you got to figure out who did it and send them a letter. You get a letter back that says you have permission to use it. If you don't do that, you are playing with fire. The alternative is take the pictures yourself. That's my radio, that's my picture. So I don't have a problem with that. But I've used a lot of other people's pictures all through the book, and I have permission for every single one of them. Any other questions?
Yep.
Yes.
If you wanted to do just like a book and give it to your family, can you do it that way too?
Yeah, and I was thinking about that driving over. That falls into vanity publishing again. My grandkids will not sit and listen to me tell them my life story. They're too damn busy.
No, but if I want to do like a cookbook, give it to my boys when they leave home, their favorite recipes. I could go through them and they print it.
Oh, if you want to print a book of recipes? Yeah. You can go to first you have to write it. Okay. Then make an Amazon account, answer all those questions. You will and a manuscript. Amazon actually has its own cover creator. And you can go in and do simple ones. You can tell it, I want a yellow cover and I want the title in black letters, and it'll spit out a cover for you. It doesn't have to be complicated. The manuscript, though, has to meet all those criteria. The gutter has to be right, the margins have to be right, the font size has to be right. The alternative, and I thought about doing this, just take your manuscript to Kinko's, tell them to whip it off with a copy machine and spiral bind it and hand it out. Okay, 1, 2, 3, all finished. So there's always that. You can self-publish. There's always that option. If you have a copy machine, you can self-publish. Yeah.
Hal, is this your second or third career? In other words, what was your motivation?
Yeah, I had a couple of careers. Yes, sort of. How this got started. The South DX Club Bulletin, in a conversation with them, they decided I should write a column, so I started writing a column. The column's called Around the Shack, and I wrote, it's been every month now for 3.5 years. So my original idea, I'm writing a big book that I really want to publish soon, not about ham radio. And I thought, I've written 36 of these Around the Shack columns, and they're all about 1,200 pages. I could just take the first 36 of them, put a staple through the upper left-hand corner and call it a book, and I'm finished, right? So that was the idea. I'll learn about publishing with the stuff I already wrote. And, oh my God. First off, I thought I would clean it up a little bit, 4 hours a day for 3 months, rewriting all of it, okay? I wasn't satisfied. It's okay for newsletters, not good enough for a book that's going to show up in the Library of Congress with my name on it. All right, so I rewrote everything. And then I went through all these other steps. I put another 400, 500 hours in writing it, another 500 hours in trying to figure out how to turn it into a book. So I never wanted that to be an avocation, but it sort of kind of turning into an avocation. By the way, that column, which I still write, will now start working with Mike. Where'd Mike go? To put it in the Norfolk newsletter too. So within a month, you'll start seeing the column that caused this book to happen.
Good.
So how much time did it take you to get permission for all the pictures? Did you have
Yeah.
anybody initially say, yeah,
The permission thing really surprised me. Almost all the permissions were instantaneous. I sent a letter, I have a picture of a West Mountain radio product in here. I sent them a letter. I got an email back the same day. I said, great. In fact, they said, we'll plug your book on our website. And just about everybody, I got an email back within a day that said, sure. I know people, a lot of people at ARRL too, and I've written for them a lot. So I got permission to use just about everything I wanted from ARRL. That's about a 2-day turnaround because being an organization, they have to staff it around, right? They staff it around. I got turned down twice. One person didn't want me to use a very simple schematic diagram on the web. So I redrew it slightly better, I thought. My version would make my own. And my other turn down was from the ARRL, but I agree with what they did. I wanted to use an image, without going into the details, that the ARRL has used off and on for a century. And they said, we don't want you to use the image. If somebody sees that in your book, they could assume it's an ARRL book. And we don't want anybody to look at your book and assume it's an ARRL book. It's not, it's your book, so we prefer you don't do that. So I got turned down, but I have about a stack of about 30 permission letters I got back in 1 or 2 days, and 2 turn downs. You know. But you've got to do it. You've got to do it.
Stick them in a ball.
Yes.
Hal, I know you have a solid relationship with the league. Is there any reason you didn't publish through the ARRL?
Yeah, they don't do things like this. It's not an ARRL-ish kind of book, you know. They do handbooks, but it's not really a handbook. Doesn't fit their mold. Yeah, I've got a bunch of QST articles and NCJ articles, and I've written for both of the handbooks and all the rest of that. I have a very good relationship up there. But it's not their kind of book, you know. Yeah. Yeah,
And
Jim.
Hal, I've been a big fan of for many years, as you know, and the articles you've been writing. Forget about what Mike and John said. Could you open the book and just mention what a couple of chapters are or something? I mean,
You want me to read you the chapters?
Mark it, your
just
book
titles.
is.
Just tell us the titles and then any comments you have.
Does everybody want to hear me read 36? Here, I'll go quick.
You don't have to read them all, just something.
All right, well, one's a ground. Some of the chapters I think people might be really interested in. What's the best antenna? That's one of the chapters. What's the best radio? That's another chapter. Analog has its place, in which I go through and offer my own opinion about radios that have no knobs. I don't like radios that have no knobs. Yeah, so this has some opinions in it. It says opinions and amusement and so forth. The last article is a takeoff on Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol. And that's just humor, straight humor all the way through. There's a chapter on FT8. There's a chapter on several on building things, like how to build magic teas, what they're for. There's a chapter on QRO considerations. A lot of people run high power. They don't really realize how much voltage and current they're actually moving around through antenna tuners and what insulators start to do when you have 6,000 volts on them and so forth. There's a chapter on insulators, a chapter on coax connectors. Coax connectors are really complicated. People don't think about it. And by the way, there are a ton of really garbage coax connectors for sale. You can go to every Hamfest. That's a chapter you ought to read. You can go to every Hamfest and find $1 coax connectors. Don't do it. Right, just don't do it. Especially outdoors, they become intermittent. They're hard to solder to. There's all kinds of things wrong with them. The expression is amphenol or not at all. If you can get your hands on an amphenol connector, you're miles ahead. It's going to cost you an extra $2 and it's worth every penny. So there's a chapter about that. There's a chapter about all, it's literally whatever came to the top of my head that month. mean, it's all over the place. It's the look inside my head. I'm saying, you may not like what you see. Any more? Thank you. I blew my 10 minutes right out of the